Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Welcome to another episode of Giant Cocktails. I am your host, Ben Henry, alongside my brother, the desperate Matthew Henry. How you doing, Matthew?
Yeah, I'm desperate. 64 games left, Ben. 64 games.
Yeah, and now we are 4 games under 500.
I'm desperate. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
That's right. That's right. Desperate times do call for desperate measures. But
or none at all.
Or none at all.
Just
That's right.
Yeah.
Do
Desperate
nothing.
times could just be like, yeah, we're just going to mail it in.
Well, Matthew, I would argue that the players seem like they've been mailing it in all year. I think that's kind of the problem. Farhan finally realized it was his job to create an entertaining baseball team. It only took him 5 years to get there. And so he did the best that he could in the amount of time that he had this change of heart. And he did the thing. But then the players all just decided that they were just going to, go through the motions. And that's how we've ended up here, Matthew. And that's why you are now a desperate man. But somebody else is also a desperate man. And we're going to be talking about that at length later in the show. But I thought that would be our theme today, Matthew, is desperation and perhaps recognizing when your time is up. So here's my icebreaker question for you, Matthew.
Okay.
When it's time for you to go, do you go kicking and screaming, or do you go with grace and dignity?
Grace and dignity have never been a strong point.
Yeah.
So if kicking and screaming, probably. I mean, a little bit of crying too. I think.
Pleading, crying, and pleading. That's how you would go. I'm sorry, I didn't put that as one of the options. So you're going to have to go with kicking and screaming. But are you saying you're more of a crying and pleading kind of guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can. I know that. Yeah,
I do know from experience that the only way that I leave with grace and dignity is if they give me a large check when I'm heading out the door.
The golden parachute does really help with the with being more graceful and more dignified.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
it really does. It really does. The bigger the parachute, the more grace and dignity you have as you float to the ground. I'm a kicking and screaming kind of guy.
All right.
Good. And throwing and breaking.
Oh, okay.
And grabbing my crotch and spitting and I will definitely say something like, you'll all see. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. But we're not talking about us today. We're talking about somebody else. But we'll get to that. Anyway, today is Saturday, July 20th, as we record this podcast. Yes, it's Saturday. Matthew and I have lives. We have things to do. And sometimes those things happen on Sunday evenings.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they are sometimes more important than our podcast. But listeners, nothing is more important than you, which is why we're recording this early on Saturday. But I must tell you, we are recording this as the Giants are playing against the Rockies in Game 2 on Saturday. This would be the game where Logan Webb started off with giving up 2 runs in the first inning after loading the bases with nobody out, and then turning the double play, and then giving up a single, and then getting out of it. So that's the game that we're talking during. Hopefully, the Giants will come back and secure the victory. But I got to tell you, my confidence is a little shaken, Matthew. Because yesterday, in our first game back after the break, this is it. All the players, they had time to take deep breaths, get their stuff together, think about what they've done, think about what they haven't done, hit home runs, get hits with runners in scoring position. They lead the league in sacrifice flies, but they suck at hitting home runs with runners in scoring position. Matthew, in our last episode, I said that the Giants were the 4th or tied for 3rd worst with home runs with runners on base. I was wrong, and so I had to cut that out of the show. They're 3rd worst with runners at home runs with runners in scoring position.
Wow.
A fine but important line.
Yeah, because if you're hit a home run, first base is scoring position. That is correct.
So it was not a great argument, but still it is very interesting because the Giants have the most plate appearances with runners, I think, on first base. and in all of baseball.
Wow.
and so that
means we're not hitting enough doubles, is what it means.
No, we're not hitting enough extra base hits in total. But they really start to suck once those runners advance. So on first base, not so bad, but once they get to second and third base, pretty bad. So, that's what the Giants haven't done. They haven't done enough of the clutch hits to bring home all of those base runners that they've been getting on. And, of course, the pitching staff just hasn't done enough of everything. They haven't done enough of getting people out, right? Which is why their record is now they were 3 games out in the wild card spot. I'm not even going to talk about the Dodgers and where they are with that because we've gone over that so much since their last baseball game. And guess what, folks? They didn't get any closer. They're 10 games out. Okay, fine. I told you. They're 10 games out in 4th place. And they're 3.5 games out as we speak of the 3rd wild card spot. And that's probably because the Cardinals played today and won. No, looks like they lost. I don't know why that is, but they're 3.5 games out of the wild card spot with 5 teams in front of them. So things have not gotten better, right? Kyle Harrison comes out, pitches the first game of the post All-Star break, which I thought was interesting, Matthew, because it wasn't Logan Webb.
Yeah.
But it does give them this opportunity to do lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty when Ray comes back. Because Ray, for those of you who don't know, Robbie Ray's a left-hander. And he's going to make his next start against the Dodgers. And Matthew is pumping his fist, which I think means something positive happened. I'm not going to tell you what.
Well, one player came to play for the Giants today. So there's that.
That's right. A certain player did something that resulted in the score being 2-2. That's a news fact. I can tell you news facts. I think I just can't describe what happened. Matthew, It looks like here today that Tyler Fitzgerald is 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. Okay. So yeah, that's the standings. That's where things stand. Not great. But what else is also... Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, the Giants not only need to play better, they need better luck. And
yes.
I'm not a big luck guy, but the more I watch the Giants, I think they're unlucky, Ben. I mean, look at the Brett Wisely play yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I think that is a bad omen. I don't believe in omens, like you don't believe in luck. But if omens are a thing, that was a bad omen.
Yeah. Well, you had runners on, was it first and second or second and third? And then I don't know. He hits a rocket.
It was runners on second and third.
And he hits a rocket that ricochets off the first base bag, jumps fair, and hits the umpire who also jumped fair into fair territory.
Right. I mean, and that's like the thing. So when I first saw the play, I didn't recognize that it hit the bag, and I was pretty pissed off.
Yeah.
Like in that moment. But, once I saw that it hit the bag, I was like, oh, the baseball gods hate the Giants.
Right.
Like, that's it. It's not the umpire's fault. That was the baseball gods. And you know who also believes in the baseball gods and thinks that they don't believe in him is Brett Wisely, because he says, yeah, it makes sense that would happen to me after the game. And for a guy who wears 0, I'm starting to learn a lot about Brett Wisely. He's got a little rain cloud falling around him. And you know what? I kind of like that. I didn't know that about the guy. I didn't know that.
You and him have a little bit of something in common, I think.
Brett Wisely's a cynic. He wears 0 on his back. He just knew that kind of play would happen only to him. And you know what? The thing is, Matthew, I used to be part of the rain cloud. and that's fun, but I'd much rather to be under the rain cloud. I don't know why that I get joy out of that, but I do. Woe is me.
Eeyore,
yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, that was not, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about that play other than that just feels like 2024.
Yeah. It's the only team that's happening to this year is the Giants. That's just
totally agreed. Totally agreed. Like, this is a team that is the 6th best in the National League at scoring runs, but like dead last at scoring any other runs than 3, 4, or 5. And so, yeah. Anyway. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Matthew, we buried the lead. We hinted at it, but we haven't said exactly what happened. Clouds are starting to form over somebody else's head. Finally, after all these years, a rumor monger by the name of Bob Nightingale, who writes for USA Today, put at the bottom of his most recent article in a grab bag of notes that were 50 notes long. He just said, other baseball executives believe that these 3 heads of baseball operations, a.k.a. hobos, will be fired if they don't make the playoffs. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the names on that list was Farhan Zaidi. Now, this is just a rumor monger talking to other guys who work for other organizations. So it's
not
basic.
Like they know.
It's basically a bunch of drivel. But here you go, folks. That sound that you just heard is the heater being turned on. Farhan is on the hot seat. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about what that could mean for the trade deadline. We're going to be talking about what that means for the future. And then speaking of the trade deadline, we're going to talk about more trades. And we're going to keep talking about trades until the end of the month. But before we do that, Matthew, you need to ask us our trivia question.
So trivia question is, so on Friday, Kyle Harrison became the first visiting pitcher to have more than one start in a single season at Coors Field where he gave up 0 runs while pitching 5 innings or more. Who was the first Giant to achieve this feat, and what year did he do it? And just a reminder, Coors Field opened in 1995. So, that's today's trivia question. Who was the first Giant to pitch one start and allow 0 runs with 5 or plus innings pitched?
Wow, late 90s pitchers. 1995. Dave Burba.
Okay. We'll see how wrong Ben is at the end of the episode. Just as a real quick aside, I was at a thrift store today, and under lock and key in their glass case at the front, there was a tiny miniature Kirk Reeder bobblehead. And it was, I guess it was a Burger King toy or something like that, or a Carl's Jr. toy, maybe.
Okay.
At one point. And it was 2 or 3 inches tall, Kirk Reeder, still in the box.
And you left it there?
I did. I was.
How much was it?
$10.
Somebody go buy that.
All right.
Because my brother's an idiot.
I wanted to sit on it because I know no one else is buying a Kirk Reader bobblehead doll. So I thought I could go back and.
Well, you can just bargain with them right then and there, Matthew. They were probably if you'd said, "Can I get this for $1?" They probably would have said yes. Because they don't know who Kirk Reader is.
The little old lady behind the counter seemed like she bargained hard.
Oh yeah, okay.
I ended up paying $20.
Right. Well, for a Kirk Reader miniature bobblehead, you probably should.
That's right. All right, I'm going back. All
right, I'm looking this up right now. Mini bobblehead.
I think it was Carl's Jr. toy. I think it had a little Carl's Jr. logo on it.
All right. Wow, there's a lot of these.
Yeah, there were 8 of them. They had 10 of them, and they had in series. And there was on the box it said that were they did them in pairs, so they released them in pairs at a time.
All right. Well, folks, if you're looking for this, you can have one on eBay right now. Buy it now for $22.
Ooh, it's a deal then at that thrift store. All right.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not looking up past auctions here. But anyway, I would take it. It's not a good likeness. I gotta say that.
I had to actually I saw the Giants uniform and I couldn't tell who it was just by looking.
It does. I mean, when you tell me, oh yeah, it kind of does look like him. The chin is massively huge. Although I guess Woody has a big chin.
I mean, maybe that was his feature, and it was a caricature kind of look for him.
Yeah. Maybe if you look closely at his shoes, he's wearing Willie's shoes.
Enough with the banter. Let's talk cocktails.
All right, Bob. All right. Thanks for keeping us on track.
What are you drinking, Matthew?
All right, Bob. I'm drinking an original cocktail that I'm calling Spicy Night. And what's in a Spicy Night? It has 1.5 ounces of gin, a 1/2 ounce of Lillet Blanc, a 1/2 ounce of black pepper syrup, and 3/4 ounces of lemon juice. Put all those ingredients into a cocktail shaker with ice. Give it a good shake for 12 to 15 seconds until well chilled. Double strain it into a chilled coupe glass and garnish with a lemon twist. And folks, the key to this is that pepper syrup. You're gonna do a simple syrup, 1-to-1 ratio, 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar, and about 2 tablespoons of cracked black peppercorns. So I put them into my pepper grinder and I set it on the loosest setting, so they just cracked it. And put that on there, and then I brought the syrup to heat, and then I put the peppercorns in there, and I let it steep for a good 5-10 minutes, and just actually till it cooled. And then I put a little cheesecloth in there in a strainer, and I strained out all the black peppercorns, and you get this spicy black peppery syrup. It's pretty amazing. So that is my cocktail today, the Spicy Night, featuring the black pepper syrup.
That's a tasty cocktail.
Actually, it's really good. I'm really proud of this one. It's pretty good.
What are you drinking, Ben?
Oh, whatever, Bob. I'm sorry. It's no longer. It's 4-2 now. He just. I mean, he did that thing where he does the thing and then the other guy tries to do the thing, and he hung it. He hung it. He just hung it. It's just like a big fatty. Matthew, you could have done the thing against that and then resulted in the thing, especially there. So 2 things happened to make it twice the things now. So it's twice as many things as the things.
Well, then I see he let up another thing because now the inning's still going.
Yeah. Immediately after that, he gives up another thing. I mean, it was a smaller thing. It was 1/4 as bad as the other thing.
Well, and he did the thing that you can't do in Coors Field, right? You just can't do that.
That's true. That's true. You can't hang things at Coors Field. No hanging allowed, right? No. People, they really don't like that.
Don't hang your dirty laundry.
That's right. Don't hang things on the railings. Anyway, thank you for asking, Bob. That's very kind of you. Bob, today I'm drinking a cocktail known as the White Lady's Ghost. And no, I didn't kill anybody. But for those of you who know, if you know, you know, here's the recipe to the White Lady's Ghost. It has 2 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of Cointreau, half an ounce of simple syrup, and 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. I did half an ounce of simple syrup because of the Cointreau. I did 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice because that's all the juice I could get out of that particular lemon. I took all of those ingredients and I put them into a shaker with ice. I shook them until they were chilled, and then I double strained that into a coupe glass, although it was a little on the short side, so it might do better in a smaller stemmed glass like a Nick and Nora. Why is it called the White Lady's Ghost? Well, I did say if you know, you know, but I hate that. That really annoys me.
I didn't know.
Like when people do that. You didn't
No.
know? Yeah, you didn't know. There's a cocktail called the White Lady.
Oh.
And it's the same cocktail as this, but it has egg white in it.
Got it.
And so that's what makes her a white lady. And let me tell you, I have lots of white ladies.
You know, they don't have to be white ladies. It could be
Every night.
anyway.
Oh, wait, what?
Before you're on the hot seat, let's talk about somebody else on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. All right. Matthew, Bob Nightingale says a guy says, multiple guys or gals says that, and I guess maybe we should read it. It is not a much. There's not much to this story, folks.
Oh, it was
But I'll read it to
two
you.
lines.
It was 2 lines in the story, buried super deep. The story is titled MLB Draft Prospects with Famous Bloodlines Carry Weight of Monster Expectations. And you scroll to the bottom of this article that is all about that. And then you get to a section called Around the Base Paths. And then you go down like halfway through that. And it finally says, baseball executives are starting to believe that Blue Jays GM Ross Atkins, Padres GM AJ Preller, and Farhan Zaidi, Giants hobo, so it doesn't say that, president of baseball operations, but we know they're all hobos, all may have to make the playoffs to assure they keep their jobs. And then it says Atkins appears to be the most in danger, and I think that makes sense. So there you have it, Matthew. That is the first sign of smoke. That is, I think, the first negative thing that we have read about Farhan Zaidi being let go, I think, ever.
Yeah, I think the closest we got is when they extended Farhan after signing Bob Melvin. There seemed to be some thought that because he only had 1 year left on his contract at the time, that maybe he would not be joining. He would be leaving sooner rather than later. But no.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, I think at the time it made sense to either fire him and replace him with another GM. But that's weird to hire, hobo. That's weird to hire a manager and then hire a hobo who doesn't get to have a say in hiring the manager.
Yeah, right.
Right. And that's also why you want to have alignment, because you don't want Melvin sitting there going like, oh, my hobo does not have a contract for next year, and that makes me uncomfortable. So you want to get everybody's contracts lined up, and that's why that went that way.
But even then,
because
we did say that just because they were signing somebody at 3 years didn't mean that they had to last 3 years. We did say that. But then, he went and did the things, Matthew. He did do the things.
He did the things. And we don't mean like he hit a home run or had a single. Those are the things that the Giants are doing. Well, those are the things that the Giants are not doing today, but that Logan Webb is allowing the Rockies to do. But the things that Farhan Zaidi did were different things, arguably more important things. He signed Matt Chapman. He signed
Jorge Soler.
Blake Snell.
And Blake Snell.
He signed Jorge Soler after trying to get JD Martinez. He did successfully sign a very interesting and intriguing and therefore entertaining player in Jung-Hoo Lee. He did the things. But then the players didn't do the things. And I think to a certain extent, he is paying the price for that. On the other hand, in my opinion, Matthew, he spent 4 years doing a whole lot of nothing. Mm-hmm. And he's talked a lot of talk about the minor leagues.
Well, right. But I also feel like it's almost like you're cramming for the test, like the night before the exam. when you've had all season, all when you've had all semester to study for it. Yeah. And sometimes that works out for you and sometimes it doesn't.
That's right. I think that's a perfect analogy. That's what he did this offseason. He crammed. He realized that his whole theory and thesis was wrong. Everything that he was trying to do was proven. Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. And so what I think what they were trying to do all along, Matthew, was to make a competitive team that could challenge for the playoffs while also improving the farm system.
Right. And yeah, exactly.
And arguably
that was the plan. I mean, I think they had even said so much at the beginning. Yeah.
Right. And he did do the former, right? They made the playoffs one year.
Yeah.
I think in spectacular fashion. I think we can ignore the spectacular fashion, but because I think a lot of that was just luck. I don't think Farhan Zaidi was responsible for a bunch of the guys of the previous era having career years at the end of their careers.
Right.
Posey, Crawford, Belt. You know, yes, he did gamble on Darren Ruff, and he rolled double sixes. But that doesn't happen all the time. But the fact of the matter is that team was a competitive team, and they were somewhat competitive the next two seasons, if you call hovering around 500 competitive. I mean, they had a chance to make a run in September to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They were playing meaningful baseball in September, so that's sort of competitive. But the farm system, Matthew, what has that done?
Well,
Not a lot.
Not a lot. At least yet.
At least yet. All right. So that all begs the question. Does this make Farhan Zaidi a desperate man?
Yes.
Because I got to say, man, a desperate man is a dangerous man. Because if he believes that he has to make the postseason to save his job, his dream job, by the way,
right.
A job he may never get again.
Yeah. Right.
Like, this is it. This is the end of the road.
Yep.
Because when you fail at this job, you don't often get second chances. If that makes him desperate, how does that change him? How does that change his approach at the trade deadline?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, first, before I answer that, so the Rockies did a bad thing. Their shortstop did a bad thing.
Okay.
Like he was going to do a good thing, and then he threw a bad thing, and then their 8-foot tall first baseman jumped up in the air, and
Tolia.
And then the umpire called it one thing that the Giants didn't agree with, and then overturned it on that thing. Okay, and then the very next thing, Wilmer Flores did a really good thing, and now they're only down by 1 run.
Okay, I get it. Okay. The shortstop threw a temper tantrum, and then, because as sometimes children do during temper tantrums, just pulled his pants.
Sure. That's exactly
like that happens, folks. Like a lot more than you would think,
especially in Little League.
Yes, especially in Little League. Man, I've had to pull up more than one pair of pants at Little League. I got to tell you. Especially in the dugout, folks. The stuff that happens in the dugout. My goodness. But anyway, and then he after he threw his temper tantrum, he didn't want his ball anymore, so he threw it at the other guy, Tolia. That's the guy, folks, who only hits. He's the Dave Kingman of today.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
He looks like Dave Kingman. He's huge.
Yeah, he spells his name Toglia, but he pronounces it Tolia, and he missed. He missed the ball. Well, he got to get out of the way.
No, he jumped and caught the ball, but the ball was so far up.
Oh, he caught it.
That the umpire called it one thing, and then it was overturned by another thing.
You mean the man who needs glasses but refuses to wear them?
Exactly. Yes. All right. Anyway, you were asking, is he a desperate man? Is Farhan
a desperate man? Is Farhan desperate?
He is desperate, and who wouldn't be? You know, you're starting to feel the heat of the hot seat, right? And this is as you put it, your dream job. You're going to do things that you maybe wouldn't normally do in order to keep your job, right? And so
what you're telling me is we're getting Jazz Chisholm and Brent Rooker.
That's what I'm telling you. I mean, we may not have a farm system left, but we'll get those guys.
Yeah. yeah, we're gonna no more Marco Luciano, no more Birdsong, no more Wizenhunt, no more Black. He's gonna get rid of everybody. But we're getting Brent Rooker, we're getting Jazz Chisholm, and I don't know. Oh, let's get crazy. We're getting Aaron Judge. Yeah, we're gonna get Aaron Judge. I don't see it. Like, why can't the Giants just trade? Let's do an old radio trade request call. Hey, Matthew, longtime listener, first time caller. Why don't the Giants just trade Austin Slater and Tom Murphy for Aaron Judge? Why don't they do that? Because Aaron Judge is like one of the greatest players in baseball, and that's what I would do if I was running the team. Please discuss.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't listen to talk radio.
That's what talk radio.
I listen to talk radio right up until they start taking calls, and then I'm out.
And then you turn it off.
Yeah.
You turn it off. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, because like, this team is not that far out of contention. They're 3.5 games out of the wild card as we speak. They could easily go on a run. They have the easiest record in the post All-Star break of the National League. Right?
Yeah,
nobody is playing an easier set of teams to finish the year than the Giants. So a desperate man might think that he could gamble.
Well, don't you have to? Don't you have to if you're going to lose your job? Don't you have to gamble?
I would think you do. If you really believe that you're on the hot seat and that if you don't make the playoffs, you're going to get fired, you have to gamble. So, if you're ownership, Matthew, how do you approach this situation? Because you don't want the desperate man to trade away everything, do you?
Yeah, I think that's tricky. Because if you start requiring your baseball people to check in with you before trades, then that just shows that you have no confidence in the guy. And so why wouldn't you just go ahead and make the change now? I don't.
Oh.
Like I think.
Okay.
So I mean otherwise let him do the job that you hired him to do.
Wait a second. I think you just said what I think you just said. I just want to okay, we got to slow this down. I'm going to wind that back. So you said that owners can't approve all of his trades. So what you're saying is that one thing the owners in theory could do is they could just be like, okay, we have to sign off on all your trades.
Right, but then what's the point of that? I mean, because then all of a sudden you're basically hamstringing your hobo, and so it just shows that you don't have the trust in him to do his job. So if that's the case, if you're going to require him to check in with you, then
this is the part.
Then why don't you just make the change now? Like just fire Farhan.
You're saying the Giants should fire Farhan Zaidi right now?
If they're going to require the approval of trades, yes.
Okay, I don't know about that if part, but what I just heard Matthew say is that he wants Farhan Zaidi to be fired right now. Welcome to the team, Matthew. Let me go. I'm going to go get my tattooing kit. I just started. It's not going to look great, but when I get better later, we'll fix it. Do you want it to say fire Farhan, or do you want it to say I can't.
This is a family show, Ben. Family show.
Do you want it to say bleep can Farhan? And do you want it on the neck?
Bleep can for sure.
Because with your you cut your hair very short. We could just do it right on your forehead.
We could
just fire Farhan right there. Yeah. Right, okay. That's a really good question, actually, though, Matthew. And that's why I think this is BS. I think this is a bunch of just executives just running their mouths, just conjecturing.
Yeah.
They're conjecturing. Because I absolutely agree with you. Like, I do not think you can hamper your GM and say we have to approve all your trades. On the other hand, if he goes and makes one trade that kind of feels like the end of it, feels like the first shot, and then you're like, okay, hey, Farhan, great, love that trade. Can you let me know if you're going to make any more? You might do that. Okay.
Well, I do know what they'll have to do is they have to get contracts approved by ownership, especially since they're probably already over the luxury tax.
That's
and
true.
All that. So I think those are the sort of things that maybe that discussion would happen in that vein.
Right. So you're saying everything's going to have to come across their desk anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's going to require more payroll commitment.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I'm in this awkward position where the Johnson family is now my safety net.
That is an awkward position.
I really hope the Johnson family does the right thing. I can never remember which one is the dad and which one is the son. It's Greg. It's Charles. It's Charles. It's Greg. Charg. We just got to make sure that Charg is what, look, on this, Charg and I were aligned. Charg and I were not aligned when he did the contract extension. I do not agree with that. Wrong decision, Charg. But now, okay, I think Charg and I are finally aligned. Like, it's time for this organization to start getting results. And I think for me, the biggest problem with Farhan, which is because that basically begs the question, Matthew, should the Giants fire Farhan right now? And I would say this, the one thing that Farhan was supposed to do over the last 5 years is to create a farm system that created reliable players. And the only good thing that we have that we can feel confident in is Elliot Ramos, a player that he did not draft, and a player that I think this regime undervalued and constantly kept kicking to the curb rather than being responsible for making a better player. So the question is who made Ramos better? What changed for Ramos and who was responsible for that?
Right. But I would push back a little. I mean, there's also been Patrick Bailey and Kyle Harrison. I mean, we've definitely seen some younger guys.
I was talking about on the position player side. And you're right. To a certain extent, we saw a breakout from Brett Wisely. Patrick Bailey has been a good thing since day one. You're absolutely right. I will also say this. I think the Giants have been much better in the past 5 years at pitching.
Yeah. Developing pitching.
Than they have on the position players.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think there was an emphasis on that for a while, so that makes sense.
Sure. It definitely makes sense. And I think not just building the roster, because we have a really good bullpen. We have good pitchers, allegedly, on the staff. But I think the one thing that he really pushed as being a strength of this team was its pitching depth. And that is the one thing that really, really failed the Giants this year.
Yeah.
Was the depth part of it. It wasn't just not good. It was really, really bad. It's how many did we have to roll out there before we found Hayden Birdsong, who started the season in Double-A? I'll remind you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that those are fair questions. I think to answer your question about should the Giants fire Farhan now, I don't really see the point. Because the trade deadline's coming up. That would just be really bad to fire your guy that's going to be kind of making those decisions, who's allegedly done all the work ahead of time. I think you've also done the draft already. What's the rush? Let this season play out. He's in the first year of a 3-year contract, Ben. I think they're not going to fire him midway through the season. It's just not going to happen. But you know what? We haven't asked Bob his opinion on Farhan. Bob, you have some opinions. What do you think of Farhan?
Farhan Zaidi, smartest man in the room.
Okay, wait.
Are you being sarcastic, or are you you really meaning that, Bob? Because I think he wants you to think he's the smartest man in the room.
Right. I'm never sure about. Bob probably believes it.
I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it, Matthew. We just proved Bob does not believe that Farhan Zaidi is the smartest man in the room. So Bob is pro fire Farhan.
We're all in alignment here, I guess.
We're all in alignment, but I agree with you. Not now. every trade will have to go across ownership's desk anyway to approve improvements in payroll, unless they sell, in which case, fine, sell. I mean, especially, well, let's talk about that now, Matthew, because I promised that we would talk about trades. That's all anybody's going to be talking about for the next 11 days.
Yeah.
So I think, we talked about it in our last show, but there has been more information. Maria Guardado, she basically, she parroted some of the stuff. I mean, she doesn't listen to the show. She doesn't listen to the show, so she's not parroting me. She happened to make the same points that I did around guys like, the inconsequential trades.
Yeah.
She said basically that you can count on the Giants making trades that make them younger. And so I have finally come to the conclusion. I am very, very confident. I feel very strongly that the Giants are going to trade or otherwise move on from Wilmer Flores and Mike Yastrzemski. I feel like it is very likely that those two will be traded. And
you're saying that even if it's in a buy or sell, like that's not
correct.
That's just
correct.
Okay.
Because I believe that they feel like Matos is good enough to replace Yaz, and I'm not saying that Matos is in any way a replacement to the kind of player that Yaz is, but Yaz has trade value, and Matos will give you the left-handed at-bats that you need with reasonably good corner outfield defense. That's what I think Matos will do for you, so that's why I think Yaz is expendable. And there's another guy sitting down in AAA who they signed not too long ago from the Mexican League, who's actually hitting really well there. He was hitting very well in Mexico, and now he's hitting very well in AAA. And this is a guy that they had to compete with teams from Japan and or Korea. And I don't know how to pronounce his name. Jair?
Sure.
He's Encarnacion. Let's just call him Encarnacion. He's playing very well down in AAA. And so that is a guy who could then come up and fill that roster spot. So I think Yaz is very tradable because he's valuable. You could get something back for him.
Okay. Yeah. Just to clarify, though, just to remind, Matos is not left-handed. So.
Oh, sorry.
So you wouldn't be having a left-handed replacement for Conforto.
That's right. I'm sorry. I was conflating. Wow, that was a throwback. I was thinking of Matos replacing Austin Slater,
which already happened.
Already happened. I can't get away with that twice. So anyway, but I still feel like Yaz is there's a high chance that Yaz goes.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out because Yaz, I would agree with you, probably has some trade value. Wilmer, he hasn't had the season where people will be lining up for his services.
Okay, I understand. He's not very tradable, but let me ask you a different question.
Okay.
Is Wilmer Flores better than David Villar?
The fact that I have to think about that is problematic.
It is very problematic because remember, David had a very, very good cup of coffee when he was up with the team not too long ago.
Yeah, when Wilmer was on the IL.
When Wilmer was on the IL.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the real question, because that's who you would replace Wilmer with, is David Villar.
All right, well, but David Villar doesn't walk up to the Friends theme. Maybe if he's changed over that, we'd be, I could stomach it a little bit better.
Right. Okay. I see. And if he had the whole story and he was part of the 2021 team.
Yeah. And just, his quiet leadership. I love Wilmer. I love him.
Yeah. You know who I saw the other day making a couple calls? He was on Close Call Sports twice for making check swing calls.
Oh, no.
Was Gabe Morales. And the man is an idiot when it comes to check swings. Now, the thing about check swings is that, you know what the rule is for a check swing, Matthew?
No.
The rule says if the player attempted to strike the ball. That's what the rule says.
Oh.
So it's a judgment call.
Yeah.
If the umpire believes that you tried to hit the ball,
so it's not like where the bat ends up over the plate.
No, it has nothing to. And you know, all these announcers, they say, "Oh, his hips didn't break, or the bat went too far, or blah 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 blah." That's all BS. None of that matters. It's whether or not the umpire believed it was a swing. And do you know whose call that is, Matthew?
Should be the home plate umpire, right?
It is the home plate umpire's call. So you know how you always ask, you see these baseball players be like, "Oh, why don't you ask? Why don't you check?" Because it's not their call, dude. Because it's not their call. Shut your mouth. If you don't like that, they need to change the rules. But that's the way the rules are. That's the way the rules are. The home plate umpire gets to make that call, and Gabe Morales is an idiot when it comes to making that call. His judgment is poor. Sorry, just going back to 2021 and Wilmer and check swings and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to let that go.
Yeah, it is hard to let that go. It's hard to let Wilmer go, man. But like, we're talking about making the team better one way or another.
Yeah. No, I get it. And you can't, on one hand, want the team to get younger and better, and also get mad when they get rid of the older and the older and that's not as good guys.
Correct. So I would say, you know, a David VR, like the trade you're making there is David VR for Wilmer Flores, and I think that might be an upgrade.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Well,
who else do you see going though? Like who could be going?
Who could be going?
Like okay, so those are the low-lying fruit that you just mentioned.
Okay, well, so the Giants lost one game against the Rockies, and suddenly
the sky is falling.
You can't. Yeah, well, no. The vultures have come out. The sharks are circling. You know,
there's blood in the water.
There's blood in the water, and they're losing right now as we speak, 4-3 in the 7th inning, and you know they're about to lose a series to the Rockies, and so everybody's like, "Oh, the Giants are going to sell. The Giants are going to sell." La, 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 la. And so guess what they're all saying? Guess what they want? Guess who they want?
Camilo.
That's right. They want the best player the Giants have. They want the coolest player the Giants have. They want our shining jewel. I know. He didn't want to pitch when he wasn't closing because he's a closer. He's premium. You don't send him out there to sweep up Bob Melvin. Please, a 7-run mop-up job, that is beneath my Camilo Doval.
Oh, Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon just fouled a ball off his things. I feel bad for Charlie.
I'm too trying to do a comedic bit, and then you just come at me with that. I was talking about our crown jewel, and then poor Charlie Blackmon just obliterates his jewels.
Yeah, not like when the trainer comes out and he's all like, "What are you gonna do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I'm not rubbing it.
I'm not rubbing it. No, nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. I mean, first of all, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Because, but also all the other connotations.
Anyway, you know, so let me get back to Camilo though here, because Camilo, we were talking in our last episode whether he was even going to be the closer. And then we found out really early on Friday that Camilo's still the closer because they had what's his name, Walker, come in a crucial situation in the 7th, and so.
Well, we learned two things. Bob Melvin has decided to keep Camilo to be the closer, and we also learned that was probably the right decision.
Maybe Walker's not quite ready to be the closer,
or Randy Rodriguez, or Tyler Rogers. The reliever who pitched the best on Friday, Matthew, with 2 strikeouts and a walk and a home run, but at least he gave up the walk after he gave up the home run, was Luke Jackson. Our best reliever on Friday was Luke Jackson. A ball bounces off the umpire. Our best reliever is Luke Jackson. If that doesn't tell you that the Giants are not making the playoffs this year, nothing will. And it's largely because the players aren't good enough, and Farhan Zaidi has not been good enough for 5 years, but it's mostly because the baseball gods just don't want us to.
Okay, one last question on trades. One last question on trades, because I know you got something to go to tonight, so we're not going to go long tonight. We're gonna get this, but we're talking about trades, And let's talk outlandish trades. So one of those websites that's like, kind of fan-driven websites, not much more, I would say not any more knowledgeable than we are. And we don't claim to be all that knowledgeable, to be honest, suggested a trade.
Okay.
And I just want to run this by you. They suggested that the Giants trade Blake Snell to
All right.
the Dodgers. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is that to happen?
Was this fan sided?
It was.
Yeah. Okay. That's an insult to us, Matthew, to say that they're equivalent to us. Fan sided is like the bottom rung of baseball sports reporting. They are a bunch of idiots over there. And that has got to be one of the most idiotic suggestions I have ever heard. The Giants and the Dodgers, they don't trade with each other.
No.
I mean, and when they do, it's like, I don't know, Sky Bolt for Mike Ford,
Right.
It is nothing like that. Yeah, that's absurd. It's absurd.
Right.
Because here's the thing: Blake Snell could be the difference between them winning a World Series and not. And the Giants should never help the Dodgers win a World Series.
Absolutely correct. And even, I mean, that's even supposing that the Giants would trade Blake Snell. Like, I mean, there and maybe that's they said the Dodgers because the Dodgers might be the only one willing to take on a contract like that. But still, even if they are, you're not looking to trade to the Dodgers.
I believe that the Giants would be willing to give money. Like, I think they could if they wanted to move Blake Snell. I don't think that they do, right? I mean, if Blake Snell wants to pick up next year, I think the Giants will take him because I think they feel like they can make a competitive roster next year. So, but if they were to move him, they would move salary with him too. They would make him cheaper. They're not just trading him for nothing. Like, they know they would have to give up money. But you cannot do anything that lets the Dodgers win a World Series. That's how we as Giants fans keep score, Matthew. We care about two things: the Giants winning and the Dodgers not winning. Everything else we don't give an F about.
Yeah,
and that's why, like, a writer like that is an idiot.
Well, he's probably not even a Giants fan or even a Dodgers fan for that matter. So.
Well, yeah, he probably doesn't know anything. And that's why, I mean, they say things like that. And it's just like, it's just like you don't understand the whole dynamic. Mm-hmm. Stupid is what I think about that.
Why would we trade Snell to the Dodgers?
Dodgers suck.
That's right. That's
That's
why
right.
we don't trade to the Dodgers.
That's right. And that's where we want them to be. That's where we want them to be. And quite honestly, that fan base right now is in a frenzy because that team sucks right now.
Oh.
I mean, sucks for their expectations.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, it must be rough, right? It must suck. It must suck being in first place, but not being in first place by as many games as you want. Like, F you. F you. F every Dodger fan. Like, oh, boo-hoo. God, these bandwagoner, just low value, low morality, ugh. Never giving them anything good. Well,
right.
Thank you for getting me riled up, man. That feels good.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
A little shot of adrenaline.
Yeah, you take that with you to your youth, your college play tonight.
That's right. And I can use that to wallow in my sorrows over this impending 4-3 defeat.
All right. Well, I think it's time to answer the trivia question. We should
let's do
wrap
it.
This up. Which was I'm going to give full credit. This was Ben's trivia question. Usually I am the person that comes up with the trivia questions, but I was running behind today, and Ben jumped in, and this is a doozy. This is a great one.
Yeah.
So this is today's trivia question. On Friday, Kyle Harrison became the first visiting pitcher to have more than one start in a single season at Coors Field, where he gave up 0 runs with 5+ innings pitched. Who was the first Giant to achieve this feat, and what year did he do it? The answer is Russell the Love Muscle Ortiz. On August 8th, 2002, which is a date that Ben is very familiar with.
I am. It's questionable whether she was more interested in me that day or who was pitching for the Giants. So this is my wife's favorite player, and that. Yeah.
Which is why we call him the Love Muscle.
That's why we call him the Love Muscle. Nobody else called him that. That's our personal nickname. Russ Ortiz. Yeah. 7 years, Matthew. It took 7 years for a Giants pitcher to throw 5 scoreless innings there.
Twice.
Well, no, just once.
Oh, just once. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Russ Ortiz was the first guy to do it one time.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Remember, Kyle Harrison is the first guy to do it 2 times in one season.
Okay, wow. All right, so Russell was the first, and I'd be interested to see how many have done it since, because probably not that many.
That's right. Well, the first player to ever do it was, of course, this is no surprise, Tom Glavine.
Yeah, no surprise.
He did it on June 16th, 1995.
All right, pretty early on in the season.
Yeah.
All right, well, folks, that's going to do it. Looking ahead, we still got these Rocky games where right now the Giants are losing 4-3 in the top of the 8 with 2 outs, so not looking good. They got one more game against the Rockies on Sunday, and then a 4-game series in LA, and then that will be the last time that we see the Dodgers this year.
And that will also be the last time that we see Jordan Hicks start a game. That has been confirmed.
Oh,
Jordan Hicks's last start of the season will be against the Dodgers.
And so then is Robbie Ray going to slide into his spot? Is that the plan?
I think so. I think we're basically going to have a 6-man road. Well, I don't know what's going to happen to Birdsong, but yes. Yeah, so Ray will slot in after Hicks.
For this series, for this series.
But then it looks like, we'll have a 6-man kind of run through, I think.
Interesting. All right, so Robbie Ray is done with his rehab starts and will likely start either Wednesday or Thursday against the Dodgers. So we will get to see the long-awaited Giants debut of Robbie Ray. All right, folks. That's going to do it. Don't forget to follow us on the socials at Giant Cocktails on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and Mastodon. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already on the podcast listener of your choice. And also give us a review. A 5-star review would be greatly appreciated on either Apple Podcast or, as Ben likes to call it, Splutify. And I think that, and then don't forget, you can also listen to us on YouTube. Go over there and subscribe and hit the little bell. You'll be notified when we upload our podcast there as well. All right, Ben. Well, it's been great talking to you. We'll circle back next week. I haven't talked to Ben about this, but when we normally record next week is on my birthday, so there might be another day switch next week for that. So just bear with us as we kind of juggle this week because we got life getting in the way of our normally. Right.
Yeah, it's mostly Matthew's fault.
It is. It's all my fault, but Ben's dealing with it. So, and you guys will have to too. So we'll see you when we see you. And Ben, it's been great talking to you. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Matthew. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
All right. What's the okay? As we're signing off here, what is the stupid score? It's they're going to the bottom of the 8th and they're down by a run.
It's 4-3 going in the bottom of the 8th right now.
Who's pitching?
Jelly.
Oh,
and he just gave up a line drive out. Okay, looked like it was going to be a good hit.
He hasn't screwed up so far. Oh, look, we had a relief pitcher do well. Eric Miller, 2 strikeouts in 1 inning pitched. No base runners at all. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, rookie.
Dude, this is inexcusable. This is inexcusable. Right out of the gate, bro. Right out of the gate, we're like, okay, They got 7 games against the Rockies or 6 games against the Rockies or whatever it is. And then they got the Dodgers who are not playing well. Maybe they can right the ship, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? We're never going to see another good Giants team again because of those 3 World Series. It's over. It's over, man. It's over. We're done for the rest of our lives. But at least they could make the playoffs, man. They should make the World Series every 15 years. They should make the playoffs every other year.